Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here. Hey, it's Saturday night and I really haven't written anything down, but I just wanted to do a quick video just to convey the fact that I really truly am very concerned about this coronavirus, this pandemic that is now able to be called a pandemic because it is sweeping the globe. It's going global. We're seeing reports out of South Korea with 123 new coronavirus cases, raising the total to 556. The death toll is at 4. We're seeing the virus spread throughout China, and researchers are saying 61.5% of coronavirus patients with severe pneumonia won't survive. This thing is just so damn deadly. And I'll scroll down here on Zero Hedge. The cost of COVID-19 quarantine. Will you be financially prepared? And this is what I'm really worried about. What we're seeing in China is causing so much turmoil and panic. There's videos now leaking out of China of young men, of young women saying they want to die because they cannot go on living under this quarantine.
我不想活了，对，我真的不想活了。我不知道是怨这个社会，还是怨政府，怨我自己，我不知道怨谁呀！我的天妈，我人要爆炸了，我人要爆炸了。我真的受不了啊，老天爷！
They've seen their family members die, they're running out of food, they're running out of water, and it just makes you realize how fragile our civilization is, and the demons that would like to bring about social chaos and perhaps economic collapse, the enemies of humanity, which I'm going to get to in a second. Some faction of these people, we believe, released this thing on purpose. And I've tweeted that if we ever find out who specifically is responsible for releasing this bioweapon, their executions should be televised live globally. So what I'm really starting to get concerned about here is the economic collapse or the economic calamity this could cause our economy, which gets me back to this piece, the cost of COVID-19 quarantine. These losses aren't only going to affect the economy, they're going to have devastating effects on normal folks who just want to go to work, pay their bills, and keep living their lives normally. Just think about this, friends. If what's happening in China happens here and people are forced to stay home in quarantine, number one, sooner or later, your employer won't be able to pay you. Sooner or later, because there is such discord already in our inner cities, there is going to be chaos. I'm really concerned and I want people to prepare while there's still time. And that gets me to this article from Quoth the Raven, who I follow over on Twitter. The time is right now. Why the U.S. must act decisively and overwhelmingly to confront the coronavirus. And Raven says, as more data is being released from countries like South Korea, which saw an exponential rise in cases over the last 72 hours, it's becoming apparent that the WHO, the World Health Organization, the CDC, and many other international governments may have underestimated how big of an issue this virus is going to be. And I want to jump over to Twitter here. I want you to see this chart. It is absolutely frightening. It's also from Quoth the Raven. And again, I wrote, if we ever determine who released this damn thing, their executions ought to be televised live globally. Look at the outbreak here. Now, what you're seeing in that red or pink line is SARS. There goes the coronavirus. So for anyone who's saying this thing is no worse than the flu, or we've seen this before with SARS, Ebola, or MERS, no, we haven't. And I'll just jump back to that Quote the Raven article, the last two paragraphs. Weeks ago, I was labeled a fearmongerer and a conspiracy theorist for merely suggesting that people may want to take some type of precaution and be skeptical of China's numbers. Now those suggestions are looking closer to what the government may be ready to acknowledge as reality. It is with the same prescience that I am today suggesting that the government act swiftly and extraordinarily decisively to respond to this virus right now by preparing the healthcare system and citizens of this country before it gets out of control. Again, I just want to stress, imagine the impact this could have on our economy if it gets bad here and people have to shelter in place or go into quarantine. We already are in a situation where millions of Americans don't even have $400 or $500 for an emergency. People live paycheck to paycheck. So aside from praying that the pandemic doesn't come here in any sort of large measure, we also have to prepare for a worst case scenario, which means getting on hand at least a month worth of food and a month worth of water. And before we part ways, guys, I just want to let you know that Rick Wiles' True News has been banned by YouTube. And of course, he's being called anti-Semitic, and that's the reason for True News being banned on YouTube. There is no such thing as hate speech, but that's what they're going to use, the catch-all phrase of hate speech, and they get to decide which speech is hate-filled speech as they terminate your channel. So this other YouTube channel shared a recent episode of True News, and I was watching it today, and Rick reminded me of an event that took place a few years ago, which I have talked about many times, and we're going to get to that here in 1 second. But listen to Rick Wiles.
You know why they smear me? Because I quote them. That's the way this game works. If you quote what they really say, they smear you because you're daring to tell the public what these freaks are doing.
Pause it there. And what he's talking about is the Billionaires Club. Now, I want to give credit to Rick and True News because he reminded me of this. I've talked about it many times. In 2009, the secret meeting in New York between billionaires Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, David Rockefeller, Eli Broad, George Soros, Ted Turner, who's always said the world is overpopulated, Oprah Winfrey, and Mike Bloomberg, among others, claimed there was no agenda. But an article in the Times of London headlined Billionaires Club in bid to curb world population. It was revealed that one of their topics, including the topics of healthcare and education, was slowing the global population growth. The article said, taking their cue from Bill Gates, they agreed that overpopulation was a priority. Now, evidently, Gates, Buffett, and Ted Turner have been quietly worrying about a Malthusian population problem for years. This article in the Wall Street Journal says, Gates, in February of 2009, outlined a plan to try to cap the world's population at 8.3 billion, rather than the projected 9.3 billion to which the population is expected to peak. Now think about that. Gates, whose father was a eugenicist and who was on the board of Planned Parenthood, wants to cap the world's population. How are they going to do that? How do you cap the world's population? The Mockingbird Wall Street Journal concludes the notion that this secret gathering was aimed mostly at shrinking the world's population just doesn't ring true. And that, my friends, is why you go to alternative news media sources for real analysis and real news and information, because the enemies of humanity have already shown us their cards. And it begs the question, if we ever find out who specifically released this bioweapon, one wonders if any of the aforementioned names or foundations might be among the attached guilty parties. Friends, I'm going to be making a trip to Costco tomorrow to have some bare necessities in store for my family, just to shore up our resources here. I suggest you all do the same. And if you'd prefer storable foods with a long shelf life, I'll leave a link to Prepare with SGT report right below this video. Once again, friends, thank you so much for tuning in. And for real news 24/7, you can visit us directly at sgtreport.com. God bless. Bye-bye.
If the panic hits here the way it's hit in China, those grocery shelves will be empty in 2 days.